Welcome back to the Applied Leadership Podcast. My name is Blaine Smith, and I am joined today, as always, by my good friend and partner, Brandon Young. And we are two friends with one question, half an hour, and zero script. And today we're going to talk about learning from history. And recent history, I think, is really where we want to focus. We're recording this end of April 2025, and one of the overarching themes in all of our conversations right now is uncertainty. There's a lot of uncertainty in the economy right now and within the geopolitical realm. And whether we're talking about tariffs or ongoing conflicts or the housing market, you name it, there appears to be a very high degree of uncertainty right now, or at least it's weighing on people. And we're seeing things like businesses pausing projects. We're seeing consumers maybe pull back on major purchases because it's a bit of a chaotic environment right now. I don't think many of us know what things are going to look like in a month or in 3 months from now. And so that is starting to kind of seep into behavior at the individual and at the company level. And what we thought it might be fun to talk about today is, what did we learn in 2020 and 2021, the last time we had a very high degree of uncertainty?
Yep.
And we saw some of these behaviors starting to emerge. And granted, it was a very different set of circumstances, but there may be a number of principles or even little tactics that we could tease out in a conversation that will allow us to be a little bit more effective, perhaps a little bit more confident with some of the uncertainty that we're going to go through in 2025, 2026. So I guess that really is the question: is what did we learn from a fairly recent experience, let's call it 5 years ago, with a high dose of uncertainty that we can apply over the next year or so as we all try to operate in what feels, at least, like a fairly uncertain or unstable environment right now?
Yeah. Something that I think is really pressing in my brain right now is stop focusing on the fray. Our feet will follow our focus. We'll consistently follow what it is that we're focused on, what we're looking for, what we're looking at. And I just remember in the COVID time frame that we were really encouraging kind of not putting the blinders on. That's not the right way, but just be cautious of what you're allowing in, is I think what the right way to say it is.
There you go. And we sucked at it. We really did a bad job during COVID of managing our inputs.
Yeah, exactly. Like be a little bit discerning. Put your shields up a little bit in terms of what you're allowing in there, because if it's constant, I mean, I will just speak for myself on this, is that I am really exhausted with hearing the word uncertainty about 1,000 times a day. And
what about tariff? Can I throw tariff in?
Yeah,
there?
tariff and uncertainty. Like, I got it. Tariff and uncertainty. And again, it's just like it's like the whole field is following that focus right now, and it's just like, it's not that it's not real, but just let's calm down a little bit is all I'm saying, and like put a little bit of discernment up in that regard. The other thing that I think is really important to mention is, like, now's not the time to make massive decisions, like big life decisions, I think, or, radical strategic decisions that might take you significantly off course. I mean, think about all the decisions that were made. Plenty of friends made some very significant personal life decisions in the midst of the COVID time period. Businesses made some significant strategic decisions, and I think some good old-fashioned sticking to your knitting right now is a little bit wise in the midst of all of the uncertainty, or all of the fracas, whatever we want to call it. I mean, that was one of the biggest things that I think we learned, is be discerning about what you bring in. And also, like, now's not the time to make any significant decisions. See how you can shrink the world down, get small, and focus on what is meaningful that will help you achieve some of your personal goals, help your business achieve some of your strategic goals. Like, stick to your knitting a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's generally good advice. And again, while 2020 was a very different set of circumstances, I think we saw a lot of the same emotions. And now, like then, we simply do not know what the federal government's going to decide on some of these things or how other countries are going to respond to some of the things we're doing. In the same way, we just did not know when things were going to open back up and what things were going to look like. And it's tricky because I can appreciate the fact that there are some moves that some of these businesses need to make right now. You may need to go into cost containment mode. You may need to do some things that shore your business up given the level of uncertainty that we have right now. So I think, be smart, take prudent measures to protect your business and protect your people. But like you said, maybe don't take any big swings or make any major decisions right now unless you absolutely have to, because we simply just don't know what tomorrow is going to hold in terms of the news cycle or the bond rate or any of those things. When we saw, whatever it was, Liberation Day or whatever we're calling it, when the big tariffs were initially announced and the market went bananas for a couple of days, we started to see even within our client base some hesitation and some things going on. And I think I sent you a text that had 2 lines, and it was number 1, strategic reserve, and number 2, fill the funnel. And so what that means for our business, just to be really personal about it, is given the level of uncertainty in the world right now, we're going to do a couple of things to make sure that our business survives and can continue to thrive, which is make sure that we have a 6-month operating reserve of cash so that if things slow down, we can continue to pay ourselves and take care of our people and keep the thing moving forward in a worst case kind of scenario. And the other thing we're going to do is make sure that we're talking to lots of people and continuing to prospect, if you will, and look for new opportunities to find clients and do our work, because we don't know if maybe a big corporation is going to fall away because they go into, cost containment or austerity mode. And that is what we can do right now. We can move forward with a pretty high level of confidence, even when we don't have certainty, which is really what we want for everybody. And we can feel confident because we've done the things we need to do to shore ourselves up against a worst case scenario. And we're going to really lean forward and get on the gas about trying to grow our business right now, because best case, it grows. Worst case, we're kind of filling some more in the top of the leaky bucket, so to speak. So, that's just how we're looking at it. There's lots of ways to do it, but, control the controllables. Do what you can.
Yeah. This is the reality is that all of life is uncertainty. That's just the truth. So that's why it's annoying to hear it in the news cycle and read it consistently. It's because it's like, oh my gosh,
Maybe it's a favor to us all right now that we've been made so aware of how uncertain things are that we can act appropriately rather than just, getting blindsided, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. That's probably a good way of looking at it, but it's kind of just like saying water is wet. Like, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and neither do you. But
That's a good point.
Yeah, but I think the thing about staying the course is really important, I think, is stay the course, like whatever decisions that you have made and whatever initiatives or, key strategic aspects that you are working on for the health of your team probably doesn't change. Now, you might make some adjustments based on some just wisdom, some thoughtful cost adjustments that just help you to kind of build your own strategic reserve. But that doesn't mean that you can't continue on some of these projects or programs that you're working on, right? Like, for us, it's been a bit of a new prospect to engage in more of a performance marketing aspect and really engaging with, different ways to reach new and different audiences. I don't perceive that that there's value in just kind of cutting that. But now you might want to change the amount that you invest in that. You might want to change the way that you go about it. But I don't think that just stopping will help us to achieve any of the things that we already have set out for us, such as filling the funnel. If you're not reaching new prospective clients, and you're probably not filling the funnel. By definition, you're not filling the funnel. And if you have to invest a little bit in that, then by all means continue to invest in it. But that doesn't mean that you can't make some adjustments along the way. Like, for example, company travel. Maybe we don't need to, I don't know, go to a $75 a plate dinner. Maybe we just need to make a small slight adjustment. Maybe we can do something a little bit simpler. I'm not saying because we don't typically do those kind of dinners or anything like that. But the point is that can you make some adjustments while still moving in progress of the goals that you have set out for yourselves?
Yeah, I think this is right. You can't just hit the pause button and freeze and wait for someone to give the all clear, because that's not going to happen. So there does have to be a way to keep moving forward. And I would suggest the best way to do that is maybe to take a breath, step back, maybe huddle your team together and just revisit some big picture stuff about your organization that is going to be true independent of whatever some of these more kind of micro or near-term changes are. So as cheesy as it may sound, I would get around and think hard about what is our mission statement? What is our purpose? What are our company values? What are our priorities, right? What are the principles within which we operate? And then with all of the uncertainty swirling around, we can continue to make decisions that are in keeping with our values, that are in keeping with our principles, and keep us moving directionally toward what it is we're ultimately trying to achieve. That's the best you can do. Even last week when Jenny and I were on vacation, we took a lot of time, many hours, to sit around and kind of evaluate and reevaluate our family purpose, our family values, our priorities for the next 10 years. And again, we don't know what our income will look like a year from now. We don't know what the world's going to look like. But what we can feel good about and we can share with our kids is this is what we believe in. This is what we're focused on. These are the things that we value most as a family. And if our income were to be cut in half this time next year, we would still be focused on those things. And to your point about the dinners, it may not look like going on an awesome vacation to Costa Rica next year as a family. It may look like more of a staycation here in Maine next summer, doing a lot of things that are free and low cost. I don't know. But that doesn't take away from the core things, which is we're going to spend time together as a family. We're going to have fun. Yeah. We're going to invest in our relationships. Those things remain the same. So if you're feeling like the world around you is very shaky right now, the best thing we can do is be as solid and as stable as we can within our own business, family, organization, whatever the case may be. So I would say now is a great time to revisit some of those things and make sure that we're all really clear on the things that are kind of the non-negotiables and the things that are true today and will be true almost regardless of what the environmentals end up looking like.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting back to first principles. And if you're not clear on what those first principles are, now it couldn't be a better time than to circle up the wagons and really get into that and ask, who are we as an organization, as a family? Who do we serve as an organization? What do we do? And why do we do all the things that we do? Because what we have seen over and over and over again, I mean, basically, this has been our entire professional career, is how we do what we do will change based on any given host of factors, any given a number of degrees of uncertainty that the world will throw at us. We can change the how as long as we're still in keeping with the what, the why, and the who. But if we don't feel super clear on those things, now is a great time to actually dial that up. And I think it will inspire a sense of confidence in the midst of great uncertainty. And that confidence will help to override some of the concern that we have, some of the fear that we have, because that's what it is. We know it's actually fear that it's peaking. It's, we say all the things around it, but like anxiousness or all this kind of stuff. But that confidence can help us to override that fear. We can still be a little bit fearful or concerned about what the markets are going to do. We can be concerned about, I mean, I'm certainly concerned. I'm certainly feel that, but I feel like, we can we can still move through with confidence. I like something actually from our sermon this weekend. It's something that Pastor Craig says, quite often, is that fear gets a vote, but we get the final vote. Like there's a say in there, and that happens. That's natural, but we get to cast the final votes, and getting back to that first principles thinking and really hammering in on what makes us us and what we do, I think can help kind of block out some of that noise that's around us.
Yeah, totally the case. I think another thing that we learned through COVID that may apply well over the next couple of years is that there are always opportunities in adversity. There are always opportunities in chaos. And whether it's just a personal learning and the growth that we experience by moving through these things and persevering, or whether it's a more tangible opportunity that we or our businesses are able to seize because we had our head about us, we were paying attention, we had some dry powder, and we were able to move on a market opportunity that emerged that others maybe couldn't handle because we were confident and calm and paying attention, and we were set up well for this. There are always opportunities in these moments. And I think that's something that's very, very important to keep in mind. I think way back to our time in the military, in the special operations world, we always wanted to go do our business at night.
Yep.
If possible, when it was really cold, even when it was raining, because we knew we had distinct advantages over our enemy in those environments. It was dark for everyone, cold for everyone, raining for everybody. But we had more training. We had more confidence in those environments. We had better technology, whether it's cold weather gear or night vision, you name it. So we prepared to try to be successful in very difficult conditions. And so I don't want to go do a raid on an enemy target when it's 62 degrees outside in broad daylight, because everyone's motivated to pull security and do early warning devices when it's like that. But I could tell you a number of cases where we walked right up on targets and just pulled people out of bed because we did it at 3 a.m. It was freezing cold and raining outside, and they couldn't hear us coming. And the people that were supposed to be providing watch were trying to stay warm by a fire somewhere. So what does that look like for you and your organization right now? How are you uniquely prepared? In what ways are you tough and capable and able to lean into some of this chaos and say, hey, we're okay. If the status quo is what happens, we're all right. If there's a big shakeup, we've got our head on a swivel. We've got the capability to seize some of these opportunities. So that would be the one big thing I would say is we came out of COVID and the world looked very different. And I don't know if we're going to come out of the situation we're in now and things are going to be fundamentally different. But I would say shifting world order, AI, you name it, things are probably going to look very different in 18 months than they do right now. And you don't want to get left behind on that. So pay attention and look for opportunities. You can't just see change as a negative thing. And our human brains want to see change, especially disruptive change that was unplanned. We want to see that as a negative thing because it's uncomfortable. It may still be uncomfortable, but it may be a positive thing if we're looking at it closely enough.
Yeah, I mean, when you have your purpose established, you can muster the will and the skill to get done what you're trying to get done. And I think that what we learned 5 years ago that you did a very eloquent job at reminding all of us, which was that a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. The chaos is a terrible thing to waste. And so, I would ask the question, what kind of skills are you working on right now that can help you not only navigate through the complexities of this time, but that can help you head in a positive direction moving forward? I mean, a perfect example, I happen to have a fair amount of friends who are in the financial services sector, and they have shared with me that a ton of people are reaching out to them right now to get on solid footing. I think that's a great outcome. I think it's a wonderful outcome that people are looking at things and saying, and myself included, I'm not particularly learned in the machinations of the financial world, and I look at that and I say, hey, there are some skills that I am quite good at in terms of financial management. And then there's some skills that I'm just not good at. So I'm going to reach out and get a little bit of help with that. I think that that's okay. I think it exposes these things for us, and we can actually do something about it that ends up helping us in the near term, but also setting us up for success in the long term. And why? Because I'm anchored to the purpose that we're trying to set out for ourselves, which is at some point we would like to retire. At some point, we would like to have the ability to be present for future grandkids. I don't want that anytime soon. But, with 2 adult children, I want to be able to plan for all that kind of stuff. And so I think these things that pop up, we said this often 5 years ago, and I will say it again now, is that crisis tends to put a microscope on pre-existing issues as opposed to creating new issues. And so I think we're kind of seeing that unfolding in the marketplace right now. There are some pre-existing weaknesses that we have been operating through for a very long time. And it's probably high time that we take a look at some of that kind of stuff.
Yep, that's where I was going to go, is that this is a great opportunity to identify some vulnerabilities, some weaknesses that we may have and shore those things up. And we saw that in 2020 with the supply chain was the big phrase back then, right? We saw how vulnerable our supply chains were to a major disruption like that. So let's think about, what can we learn from this? Because it's easy to think we're all really good at things like investing when everything's just up and to the right. And when things go nutty, people start reaching out to a financial advisor or an estate planner or somebody because they're like, oh, this is maybe as easy or as straightforward as I thought it was.
Right.
And I could use some help. That's just maybe a personal vulnerability that you notice. What does that look like for your business? What has this shakeup exposed that maybe we need to put a little bit of effort in fixing or shoring up? So wonderful opportunity to look in the mirror and say, what am I most nervous about? And if that's the case, we probably need to do something about it. Like a million years ago when CrossFit was getting started, they had this thing called the hopper, which is basically if you took all the physical tasks someone could ask you to perform and put them all like ping pong balls in a hopper and just started turning it around, which ping pong balls would you be most concerned about getting pulled out of there?
Oh, yeah.
Like if that's how I was going to test your physical fitness, was just put all the tests in a thing and pull a couple out, which ones would you be most concerned about getting pulled out of there? And whatever those are, that's where you probably need to be spending a little bit more time. So, if you could deadlift 600 pounds, but you run a 12-minute mile, you're nervous about a 3K run coming out of that hopper. And maybe we need to start asking ourselves some of those questions, like, what is it that's making me feel unsteady right now? What about this situation exactly has me concerned right now? And like, spend a little time, journal on it, chat it out with your partner, go to the whiteboard with your team, and really expose some of this stuff and put the light of day on it, and then maybe do something about it to mitigate or eliminate some of those risks. Because if you just feel a general sense of uneasiness because, so much uncertainty, that's not good enough. We got to think harder about what is it about this situation that's actually concerning me so that you can take some real action, again, to prevent or mitigate some of those potential outcomes. So don't fall victim to this, like, well, it's just nutty times right now. Sure, it is, but we got to be better than that. We got to really think hard about how could what's going on right now actually impact me. Let's put all the boogeymen aside that I'm just kind of generally worried about, but probably don't need to be. And then let's focus our energy on the things that might actually, cause us some concern, and we can get ahead of it.
Yeah, I would also just add to that, I would just encourage us to be aware of distracting behaviors. Like for me, I know one of my distracting behaviors is that when I catch myself feeling like, oh, I'm going to go shopping for another piece of gear or something like that, I know that that's a distracting behavior. I know that when I'm sitting on the couch and I know I need to do something, or I need to pick up the phone and reach out to somebody and say, hey, do you want to, go for a walk or go get a workout in, or, grab a beer or something like that. When I feel more inclined just to kind of sit on the couch and, binge or watch some TV or something like that, it's a distracting behavior, and it's probably some brand of mild dissociation to keep my eyes off of the feelings that I have inside on all of that chaos that might be swirling about. And so I would just say, like, ask yourself, what are some of your kind of distracting behaviors, things that you use to take you off kind of the things that you need to address? Like, where do you kind of run to? Get aware of that, and maybe, just kind of name that. Maybe name it to a partner, maybe name it to a friend, name it to your spouse, and say, hey, I'm kind of feeling a little bit of this. I'm noticing that I'm in a little bit of this. And then the other thing that I just, so that you can address it, so that when it pops up again, you can actually, instead of running from it, run to the concerns that you have, address them, talk about them, see if you can't solve for some of those things, so that doesn't consistently remain that little ankle biter. The other thing that I can't help but think of right now is sometime around 2021, I can't even remember what it was called, the Great Reshuffling, or, people kind of leaving different things. And I would be remiss if I don't just call that out in the midst of this time right now, is that I think what we did learn is that, a fair amount of people will make some moves. I can't say that a whole lot of that was like super generative or beneficial for a lot of people when it netted out. Maybe it is, and you have something that you're looking to, and there's an opportunity that has emerged that you feel uniquely suited for. That's fine. That always happens from time to time. But just always remember that the grass is always greener on the other side until you get to the other side, and it's not.
Yeah, the Great Resignation, as I recall.
Ah, yes, that's what it was.
Between people getting new jobs or just piecing out and deciding they didn't want to do their corporate job anymore, there was a lot of that going on. And I'm sure that some people really found a whole new life for themselves that they didn't have the courage or the visibility to see until COVID shook things up. But in that same way, I would argue that those people actually moved closer and in better alignment with their purpose than they were to begin with. And so that is the whole show. And maybe that's where we wrap this one up, Brandon, is take the time and do the work to really try to understand what you and your organization are about, what you care about, where you're really trying to go, and just get as clear on that as possible. Focus on the things that allow you to do that. As things continue to change, make decisions that keep you aligned with your values and your integrity and your mission, and keep moving. And for some people, maybe times like this open their eyes to the fact they need a really big change. That certainly happens. And for others, we may get to a point where we say, hey, I want to keep generally doing what I'm doing. I'm afraid of losing what I have. So I'm just going to have to make some good decisions to stay on the path, even though the path's going to look a little different than what I thought. But at least that's what I think I learned the most in 2020 and 21, which is that if you stick with it, you stay in the game, you're generous, you respect the moment, you've got a real shot at getting where you want to go. It just might look a little different than you originally thought.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's a great place for us to end it. So if you're out there and you're feeling it, we're all feeling it. Stay encouraged, stay on the trail, stay in the game, stick with it, as Blaine said. If you have some questions that you'd like us to chop up, please send us a note to contact@appliedleadershippartners.com, and we will see you guys on the trail next time.
All right. Thanks.